Good morning, everyone! 今回も前回に引き続き、でる順パス単を読んでいきたいと思います。始まる前に、やる気が出るので、チャンネル登録と高評価よろしくお願いします。Insulate. When living in a remote area of Alaska, I was completely insulated from the real world. Liquidate. The company filed for bankruptcy and liquidated its assets. Meander. The view from this road is beautiful as it meanders through the mountain. Inculcate. The teacher inculcated patriotism into his students. Inculcate. The teacher inculcate. Galvanize. The president's speech was intended to galvanize his public support. Garner. In an attempt to garner the support, the mayor held a town meeting. Forfeit. If we cannot afford to complete the deal now, we may forfeit our investment. Loophole. He used a loophole in the law to avoid paying taxes. Compunction. He was badly treated and felt no compunction about quitting the job. Compliance. The judge demanded the company's immediate compliance with his decision. Boon. We consider the splendid harvest a great boon to our fortune. Lure. The undercover agent used the money as lure to attract possible traders. Next is clemency. The convincing murderer begged the governor for clemency. Integrity. Everyone aimed the integrity and honesty of the judge. Verification. It was hard to provide convincing verification on the theory. Threshold. The scientists said she was on the threshold of a major discovery. Multitude. The prince addressed the multitude of well-wishers from the balcony. Configuration. No matter what configuration we tried, our architectural design seemed flawed. Diameter. He used a rope to measure the diameter of the artifact pound. Nucleus. The atomic bomb was developed by splitting the nucleus of an atom. Proportion. My friend said that he had a business proposition for me. Icon. His opposition to nuclear power made him icon for environmentalists. Parade. Okay, he denounced the investigation as a parade aimed at appeasing the public. Catastrophic. The fire was a terrible catastrophe for the victim's family. Calamity. The typhoon was a major calamity to business in the area. Expulsion. His activities as a spy result in his expulsion from the country. Extermination. The broadened specialist for the extermination of the rats and infested the house. Legitimacy. Questions were raised concerning the legitimacy of the decision to attack the enemy forces. Condemnation. The religious leader expressed his immediate condemnation of the military's action. Retaliation. The enemy stormed our base in retaliation for our earlier raid at their fort. Discontent. There was growing discontent among the employees with the company's cost-cutting policies. Demolition. Many people protest against the demolition of the old courthouse. Next is detriment. We view the U.S. Secretary of State's actions as a major detriment to world peace. Next is solidarity. Solidarity in times of national crisis. Next is monarch. A monarch usually gains his or her power by virtue of his or her lineage. Next is blemish. The only blemish on his record was a conviction for dangerous driving when he was a student. Brink. The economy was hovering on the brink of a recession. Dynasty. The Romanov dynasty came to an end with the Russian Communist Revolution. Yes. Dynasty. I already said. Trinity. The student helped overthrow the dictator and his Reagan of Trinity came to an end. Decoy. The first brigade that advanced to the east was merely a decoy for the real attack. Segregation. Racial segregation in American South continued long after the Civil War. Next is diatribe. The doctor delivered a diatribe against the danger of smoking. Fiasco. Our expedition to the Himalayas was a complete fiasco. Gadget. That young man's room was full of ID gadgets. Next word is prone. I'm afraid he is prone to change his mind without prior notice. Bleak. The recent economic signs indicate bleak prospects for the near future. Perennial. The Christmas pantomime of Sleeping Beauty is a perennial favorite with British children. Imperative. Immediate action is imperative to prevent an AIDS epidemic in the country. Inanimate. The girl sat without moving like an inanimate object. Decrepit. A decrepit old man clung to the pole as the train lurched forward. Receptive. The chairperson said that they would always be receptive to constructive proposals for improvement. Copious. We came to the party anticipating copious amounts of food and beverage. Intimate. She was furious that intimate details of her private life had been made public. Next is capricious. The young girl's capricious nature has baffled all her friends. Confrontational. The politician lost many supporters because of his confrontational attitude. Stern. We stopped insisting on our point when the boss gave us a stern look. Coarse. The shirt looked beautiful, but its coarse fabric made it uncomfortable. Obscure. His remarks were so obscure that few people understood them. Sterile. It is extremely important to use sterile bandages when treating a wound. Stationary. Please wait until the train is stationary before getting off. Contrast. As he looked up at the contrast stars, he felt very small indeed. Commonplace. Although a brilliant researcher, he was a commonplace lecturer. Mediocre. His latest movie is mediocre at best. Opaque. Transparent emeralds are much higher in values than opaque ones. disciplinary. The army decided to begin this disciplinary proceedings against him. Bereaved, he tried to comfort his bereaved friend who had saddened by lost her elderly mother. The derelict house were demolished to make way for a new park. Cohesive. The migrants formed a close, cohesive community. Carnivorous. Carnivorous animals like cats need meat in their diet to survive. Prolonged. After a prolonged pause, the lecturer began to speak again. Exempt. Businesses that meet certain requirements are exempt from paying local tax. Differential. The younger scientist took a differential attitude to the professor. Despondent and sullen, she finally realized she needed psychiatric help. Incremental. He agreed to make incremental payments on a loan. Cumulative. The cumulative effect of the rainfall weakened the soil and caused many landslides. Superficial. The newspaper's report was criticized as superficial and misleading. Murky. The investor was said to have a murky past in the construction business. Cerebral. His approach to people is more cerebral than sympathetic. Culpated. After a long trial, the jury determined the defendant was culpable. Demure. It was hard to believe that the demure young woman before them was on trial for murder. Sleek. He brushed the cat's fur until it looked sleek and tidy. Exuberant. Her exuberant and passionate acting that won her wide acclaim. With his rural backgrounds, he found it hard to adjust the frenetic pace of the city. Fraudulent. When I suspect he's stealing were fraudulent, I cut off all negotiations. Full-fledged. The general decided to launch a full-fledged attack of the town. Drastically. The company drastically reduced the executive's expense allowance. Disproportionately. Many say the punishment inflicted on him compared to that of other offenders. Okay, next is inaugurate. Prime Minister announced that he would inaugurate a new policy on education. Rectify. By the time the mistake was discovered, it was too late to rectify the official report. Implore. The students implored the teachers to make the examination easier. Implore. The students implored the teachers to make the examinations easier. I already say sorry. Muster. The general mustered all the foes for an early morning attack. Recuperate. It took the driver 6 months to recuperate from his accidents. Validate. The degrees given at the local art school are validated by a major university. Mollify. Nothing I said could mollify the anger of the boss. Modulate. That singer voice coach advised him to modulate his voice more when singing. Subjugate. Countries with power often subjugate weaker countries. Torment. The school bullied the line in tormenting the younger boys. Rebuff. She rebuffed all his advance, insisting she was not interested in him. Imprisonment. The school principals reprimanded the student for poor discipline. Ostracism. There were ostracized by the townspeople for breaking the law. Next is revoke. The judge revoked his driver's license after finding him guilty of drunk driving. Heave. The man heaved the old sofa onto the back of the truck. Wrench. The force of the accident wrenched his torso so forcefully that he broke his back. Next is tally. Their name did not tally with those on the guest list. Tort. The mask once was taught as the first line of defense against the spread of the airborne disease. Veer. The driver veered to avoid a cat and crashed into the fence. Good part. Wince. The patient winced when the dentist inserted the needle. Procure. I was lucky to procure a ticket to the sold-out concert. Scrawl. His signature is unintelligible because he always scrawled his name. Predominate. By and large, Male students still predominate in engineering course. Next is suffocate. Most of the fire victims had suffocated in the smoke. Smolder. When the oil in pan caught fire, she tried to smother the flame with a blanket. Smuggle. The drug ring successfully smuggled its narcotics into the country. Hibernate. Bears must eat as much food as they can find before they hibernate. Loom. In spite of the good weather forecast, a dark cloud loomed on the horizon. Rumble. As we headed home, thunder rumbled in the western sky. Topple. The tall pile of books toppled and fell across his desk. Jostle. The fans jostled each other as they tried to get nearer to the stage. Resuscitate. The near-drowning victim was resuscitated by lifeguards. Lurch. The drunk suddenly lurched into a group of people who were passing. Rankle. The fact that he had not been promoted ranked him. Next is plunder. Pirates would attack ship and plunder whatever items of value they carried. Extricate. The bank found it difficult to extricate itself from the financial disaster. Now, they discovered that a rat that had gone out through the electricity cable. Foment. Her main objective seemed to be foment disharmony among staff members. Gist. The gist of his speech was that he was against to the plan. Viability. Many questions were raised about the viability of the policy. Requisite. A good academic record is an important requisite for entering a prestigious university. Prerequisite. Strong walking boots are prerequisite for anyone planning to climb the mountain. Pundit. Well-known pundits were invited to give their views on the election. Recluse. The novelist retired from writing and lived as a recluse for the rest of his life. Next is prodigy. Like many prodigies, his ability declined as he became an adult. Offshot. A new series was an offshoot of the original drama series set in the same hospital. Perk. One of the perks of the job was regular meals at a restaurant. Prognosis. After he had taken some medical tests, the doctor told him that the prognosis was good. Penchant. The professor had a penchant for expensive French restaurants. Grievance. He had a grievance against his company, which had never rewarded him for all his hard work. Okay, next is mayhem. People began to fight and the meeting became mayhem. Next is impediment. A series of environmental disasters created additional impediments to economic recovery. Hassle. I got into a hassle with the tax office over my tax liability. Vandalism. The art critics say that the plans for the new city center were simply bureaucratic vandalism. Reprisal. Following the rebellion, the government carried out savage reprisals. Upheaval. An environmental upheaval caused by a huge meteorite strike might have led to the mass extinction of the dinosaurs. Quandary. When he was offered both jobs, he found himself in a quandary. Ramification. The full ramifications of the cloning are yet to be understood. Next is tantrum. The mother was embarrassed when her child threw a tantrum at a party. Next is what's next? Matrimony. The couple is celebrating their 50 years of matrimony this year. Lineage. He was enormously proud of the distinguished lineage of his family. Mirage. The huge profits he anticipated turned out to be mirage, and he ended up broke. Next. Pendulum. With nothing to do, I just sat and watched the grandfather clock pendulum swinging and fro. Rendition. The audience was thrilled by the singer's rendition of various old favorites. Milestone. The development of the vaccine was a milestone in medical history. Insurrection. Troops were sent in to crush the insurrection in the province. Manifest. The problem was manifest to all those at the conference. Tantamount. His silence was tantamount to an admission of guilt. Impervious. His mother begged him to study, but he was impervious to his appeals. Inept. His mother begged him to study, but he was impervious to appeals. Next is intangible. He sensed an intangible atmosphere of tension in the room. Inquisitive. Young mammals are characteristically and relentlessly inquisitive. Resplendent. The bride wore a resplendent dress made of lace. Tenacious. The tenacious effort of our team finally won us the match in overtime. Morbid. The American poet had a morbid fascination with death. Tepid. The water was too tepid to make a nice cup of tea with. Hygienic. The old hospital was not as hygienic as it should have been. Palatable. I seldom find British cuisine very palatable. Innocuous. He seemed so innocuous that no one believed he could actually harm anyone. Next is insular. The young woman felt irate by the villagers' insular attitude. Uncouth. Through uneducated and uncouth, this young man is quite intelligent. Somber. The growing international tension gave a somber atmosphere to the negotiations. Sedentary. A sedentary life can lead to heart problems and other health disorders. Nonchalant. The woman seemed quite nonchalant before her job interview. Stagnant. In tropical climates, stagnant water can be a breeding place for mosquitoes. Propitious. Propitious. The weather was highly propitious for their journey across the sea. Placid. The sea today is placid and the weather is sunny and bright. Gallant. The knights of medieval times were supposed to be gallant and trustworthy. Extraterrestrial. The movie was about a boy discovering an extraterrestrial life form. I think it's ET. Next is incongruous. He remarks at the wedding struck many people as incongruous. Insipid. Most critics found his novel insipid and lifeless. Indelible. Although the tragedy occurred in his childhood, its effects on him were indelible. He knows. The prosecutor called it a heinous crime and demanded the maximum sentence. Indignant. He was still indignant at the rude way the brilliant Akrat had spoken to him. His furtive glance at his colleagues led to me to suspect a conspiracy. Haphazardly, the cheap furniture was arranged haphazardly around the room. Okay, section 18. Recon. Pulverize. The shells were pulverized in order to create a fine powder. Reprieve. By a stroke of luck, the students were reprieved from taking the exam. Resigned. The law was resigned because it was found unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. Score. They scored the department for the missing alien but were unable to find it. Pervade. A new strange illness pervaded a large section of the city. Prod. He prodded me to continue walking even after I was exhausted. Sojourn. During his trip, he sojourned for a few days on a tropical island. Parry. He cleverly parried the criticism by turning it back on his opponent. Procrastinate. The student continued to procrastinate in completing his senior thesis. Inundate. The valley was inundated when a large dam spurring a major leak. Chuckle. When the class began to chuckle, the teacher looked up and noticed that a cat has entered the classroom. Wow, cute. Nurture. The anthropologist worked to nurture good relationship with the tribe. Orient. The scientist orient his research to topics related to environmental destruction. Next is propel. The aircraft was propelled by two jet engines, one of each wing. Stitch. The nurse stitched up the wound and then put a bandage on it. Tilt. The tower was built on soft, marshy ground and it began to tilt after a few years. Tumble. The little boy tripped and tumbled down the grass slope. Abduct. The gang planned to abduct the millionaire daughter and hold her for ransom. Despise. The boy was used to being despised for his poverty by his wealthier classmates. Falter. She was in the lead for most of the marathon, but near the end he faltered and dropped out. Salvage. Following the scandal, the actor did his best to salvage his popularity. wait. After the heavy rain, local residents had to wade through flooded streets. Sorry. Next is wine. Winning. The child started whining about his broken toy. Flinch. The little boy flinched when he heard his father call him an angry voice. Fray. As they became tired and hungry, the hikers' tempers began to fray. Trudge. The exhausted hikers started to trudge back to camp for their evening meal. Twitch. He noticed his wife's mouth twitch as she tried not to laugh at what he had said. Next is delude. The gambler deluded himself into believing that he could win back his love. Democratize. The politician's speech against the war ended up demoralizing the military's troop. Eavesdrop. They secretly put her ear to the door in order to eavesdrop on her boss's conversation. Embellish. The historian was accused of embellishing the facts in order to create a more dramatic history. Imbue. His uprising had imbued him with a strong sense of patriotism and desire to serve his country. Paucity. I would like to travel after retirement, but I may be limited by a paucity of funds. Rapport. We hope that our meeting would help us develop a trusting and fruitful rapport. Outcry. A public outcry against the decision was soon raised. Premonition. The fortune teller had a premonition that her client would be in danger. Renunciation. Following his renunciation of the throne, the former king led a quiet life. Prophecy. At the time, his prophecy of a colossal catastrophe was ignored. Vestige. The judges were a vestige of the country's colonial period. Peripherally. We post guards on a periphery on the camp in case anyone tried to infiltrate in the night. Sabotage. An act of sabotage by unhappy workers broke the machine, and the factory's production came to a halt. Shackle. The unkept prisoner appealed in court still in shackles. Zeal. While appreciating his zeal, his boss would prefer more care and accuracy. Allegiance. When his chief supporters switched his allegiance to the rebel, the king knew he had lost the fight. Aspiration. It had always been her aspiration to become a successful novelist. Oh, when he reached the mountain top, he was filled with awe by the beautiful scenery. Backdrop. The movie depicts a love affair set against the backdrop of a civil war. Next is bureaucrat. For many years, the reader worked as a bureaucrat in a government ministry. Next word is collateral. The woman put up a diamond necklace as collateral for her loan. Complexion. The boy's fair complexion meant that he was easily burned by the sun. Crackdown. The new president immediately ordered a crackdown on the police corruption. Curator. When he tried to photograph the famous painting, a curator immediately warned him that it was not allowed. Groove. The running water had cut a deep groove in the surface of the rock. Inclination. The man felt a sudden inclination to visit the town in which he had grown up. Nuisance. The teacher told the boy to keep quiet and stop being a nuisance. Outskirts. People living in the outskirts of London often see foxes in their gardens. Premises. The chairman's plan was drawn up the premise that the company's profit would continue to grow. Retention. The detective retention of all facts of the case was quite remarkable. Lesion. Many different illnesses can cause skin lesions, including viruses and cancers. Remnant. Following defeat in the battle, the remnant of the army surrendered to the enemy. Trajectory. During the war, many people were employing and calculating the trajectories of enemy missiles. Resilience. Everybody was surprised at the local residents' resilience in the face of so many disasters. Wavier. Shortly before he started his horseback riding, the instructor asked him to sign a liability waiver. Vigil. A crowd of people held a vigil to protest the death of the student at the hands of the police. Peloton. His colleagues were surprised by his blatant display of anger. Quaint. England is known for the quaint cottage in its lush green countryside. Venerable. He believed that such a venerable tradition should not be cast aside lightly. State of the art. The rich man installed a state-of-the-art security system in his house. Preemptive. The Air Force was ordered to launch a preemptive strike on the site. Prodigious. The hero from Greek mythology is legendary for his prodigious strength. Suave. The suave young man turned out to be an insolent salesman. Untenable. It took the historian many years to admit that his history was untenable. Presumptuous. It was presumptuous to him to make so many demands of a stranger. Pernicious. Certain kind of pernicious virus thrive even in sanitary conditions. Pungent. The moment he entered the house, he noticed a pungent smell of curry. Lagued. The boy seemed so lagued that we wondered if he was healthy. Sullen. The little girl stood with a sullen expression on her face. Subversive. Under the military regime, many people were arrested and imprisoned for their subversive activities. Malleable. Many parents try to pass on their values to their children while their minds are at a malleable state. Pallid. After months to serve dieting, her face looked drawn and pale. Upscale. On their wedding anniversary, he took his wife to an upscale restaurant. Obtrusive. An obtrusive poster warned students not to smoke on campus. Opulent. She was surprised when she saw an opulent home with its expensive furnishings. Elastic. The rule looked strict on paper, but they were in fact applied in a rather elastic way. Next is equitable. In his will, the man tried to divide his fortune in an equitable way among his 3 sons. Generic. The film was a generic comedy with a dual plot and no famous actors. Interim. After the fire, the school was moved to another building nearby as an interim measure. Ludicrous. The ridiculous costumes of the clowns with their funny hats and huge shorts made everyone laugh. Marginal. This new state sales task only had marginal effects on wealthy people, but it hit in the poor had. Overt. Her overt opposition to the plan led to friction with their other members. Turbulent. The early years of the Qing region were turbulent ones, with wars, strikes, and natural disasters. Anecdotal. One anecdotal evidence suggests that the economy was improving, not hard statistics were available. Luminous. Only the most luminous stars are visible in an urban night sky. Melancholy. That's right. She was quiet, melancholy young woman who rarely became excited by things. Ornate. Inside the church, the wooden seats were decorated with ornate carving. Nominally, all thought he was nominally in change. The real decisions were